able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start the meeting by making a few announcements. First, Superintendent Bo Wright will not be here this evening. May Abdullah is also out. I'd like to start with introductions. I'll introduce myself. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Laird, Board President. And next was George.
George DeMarteau, attorney for the district.
Good evening, Nikki LaPlaca, board member.
Good evening, James O'Brien, board member.
Hello, Anne-Marie Straczynski, board member.
Good evening, Doug, board member.
Steve.
Dina, your turn.
Good evening, Dina Wilson, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction.
Good evening, Pat McHugh, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Good evening, Andy Whitmore, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Elena Selm, Assistant Superintendent of Student and Family Services.
Thank you.
Good evening, Diane McBride, board member. I was waiting for Doug. Thank you.
Go ahead, Doug. Why don't you reintroduce? I think you got talked over. Go ahead.
Good evening, Doug Rivers, board member.
Good evening, Karen Flanagan, School District Clerk.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd like to make an announcement that for public forum and pursuant to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, there will be no in-person attendance at any regular or special meeting of the Board of Education for Rush-Henrietta until further notice. To address the board during public forum, items that are not in the agenda or items that are in the agenda, with the exception of the public hearing on the proposed 2020-2021 school budget, please submit the statements or questions to Karen Flanagan. Karen, do we have any questions this evening?
There are none.
Okay. Then we move into our final public hearing on the proposed 2020-2021 school budget. And again, in pursuant to Governor Cuomo's executive order, there will be no in-person attendance. This is streaming live. If you have any budget questions, you may email your full name and email address to Brad Malone, bmalone@rhnet during the final public hearing. Your name will be added to the speakers list and you'll be able to join our link. Andy, would you like to start with the budget?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm going to speak to the slides that are included in the agenda. So the first slide, as we look at our budget and prepared our 2020-21 budget, the goal the Board of Education gave us was to develop a budget that is educationally sound, equitable, and fiscally responsible. So what does educationally sound mean? It means we maintain the scope and quality of effective programs and services. So basically, continue similar programs and services that we had for academic programs, extracurricular programs, etc. Next year, similar to what we had this year. Support any enrollment fluctuations, so move resources as needed, and advance district priorities. The board identified a number of district priorities and to make sure we have funding to address those priorities. Equitable, it means providing incremental resources to areas of need to ensure similar outcomes at all schools. So at our elementary level, we have federal funding that provides extra resources to high need schools. And at the secondary level, the district provides resources as needed, extra resources where needed to ensure all students are achieving their potential. Fiscally responsible, we take the mean of property tax levy increase that does not exceed the state's tax cap. Also, reasonable budget increases, meaning relative to enrollment changes, inflation, state and federal mandates, and state of the economy. And as you'll hear more tonight, state of the economy is very important during this current environment. Slide 2, the final budget is a 2.45% increase. However, that is $1.6 million less than the initial 3.6 million or 3.6% increase proposal that we had developed prior to the pandemic hitting us. The final budget does eliminate 23 positions from the original budget and cuts non-personnel spending by over $300,000. Slide 3. The tax rate increase, we're committing to be no more than 1.5%, and it could be much less. That'll be finally determined when we get the final tax rolls from the town. The tax levy is under the tax cap. So it means the annual increase to a homeowner with a house assessed at $100,000 is $30 per year. Unfortunately, we had decreases in state aid of about $462,000, sales tax revenue of $500,000, in the marketplace mall pilot of about $600,000, means that some programs for students will be cut and the local taxpayers will be taking on more of the total tax burden. So the tax levy is up $3 million. However, that is still under the tax cap. The expenditure increases are driven by salaries, increase 1.9%. Much of that is caused by the minimum wage increase that the state has imposed. Also, health insurance increases, as well as an increase to support a number of special education students who are moving into the district, and the mandated expenses to support those students is higher than our average student. We still risk further significant reductions to our academic programs if the state reduces our funding because of the state budget shortfall, if it's not made up by the federal government. So there's a lot of unknowns. There certainly is a lot of talk at the federal level about providing additional stimulus money for us. So it's too soon to determine what the impact this may have. So the existing budget does include $1.3 million of reductions in anticipation of further revenue reductions. Slide 4 takes a look at our major budget drivers. Education, as you know, is a people business, and that's reflected in the spending areas. Salaries and benefits comprise over 70% of our budget. So these two areas increased $2.6 million next year, and that was driven by minimum wage and health insurance increases. As we all know, health insurance increases significantly higher than inflation in every sector of society. Also, the influx of special education students increased our spending for those to support those students by about $500,000. So the majority of our tax levy growth of $3 million, however, is funded by new development in the town. So we have a significant RG&E project going on near the Genesee River, which adds new tax money. The completion of the VA hospital was put on our tax rolls this year. And we also have a number of new housing development. So this is new funding coming into the district that's not a burden on the existing taxpayers. So our existing residents on average should see a total increase of less than 1.8% on average. And that's despite the town-wide reassessments that is going on. And there's a good possibility the tax rate will be lower than the 1.5% we promised, and it could even be slightly negative as it was last year due to the reassessment. As we talked about, there is a net decrease in state aid of $462,000, and we're budgeting $500,000 less in sales tax sharing from the county, driven by the COVID-19 slowdown in the economy. And we're also increasing our reserve and fund balance usage by $965,000 to help offset these decreases and prevent further cuts to our academic programs. Slide 5 shows the reductions that we took throughout the budget process. We had originally proposed a number of additions to the budget to support some new programs. We took out those additions, and they included a new integrated algebra and technology course that there was a lot of enthusiasm for. We're putting that on hold. And we also had added 2 elementary teachers as a result of enrollment growth. So that is put on hold. And we also have additional significant cuts to this year's programs. So we're eliminating 11 teaching positions, which will result in a slight increase of class size at the elementary level by on average 1 student per class. We're cutting 2 administrative positions and 7 hourly support positions, as well as the reduction, $300,000 reductions in non-personnel areas. And so that does mean this is an actual reduction in the number of positions from the current year, so going into the next year. However, they will be achieved through attrition rather than layoffs. At this point, we aren't planning layoffs. So in total, we did cut $1.8 million from the original budget that we had planned before the pandemic hit. $1.3 million of that was original or additional cuts in anticipation of future revenue shortfalls. Slide 6 does show the anticipated annual tax increase on homes of different values. So you can look to see if your home is valued at about $200,000, you'd have a $60 per year average increase. And even though the town of Henrietta recently completed a town-wide reassessment, this does not increase the total amount of taxes collected. People feel because their assessment goes up, their taxes will go up. And if it were localized, that could very well be true. But in a town-wide reassessment, all it does is spread the taxes differently. The town is required by state law to assess at the appropriate fair market value. And so that's what the reassessment does. It just reflects the current fair market value of property. And it helps determine how taxes are apportioned, but it does not result in the district collecting any additional taxes. So there is sometimes misconception that the district will be collecting more in taxes. That is not true. On average, our taxpayers will see an increase in their taxes paid of less than 1.8%, despite the reassessment. And then slide 7, just in summary. So originally the budget had been developed prior to the COVID-19 crisis. As it unfolded to reflect the reality of the economic downturn, the board identified further cuts, and these have been incorporated, the $1.3 million of additional cuts. And this is to acknowledge the fact that the governor has authority 3 times throughout the state fiscal year to reduce funding for localities, including school districts, if the state revenue is falling short. So that means additional reductions may be needed mid-year if the state has to significantly reduce it, but there also is a good chance some or all of those reductions will be offset by further federal aid. So we aren't proposing further cuts at this time. We'll wait to see what additional aid we may get. Our intent is to minimize the impact on student learning and their extra classroom activity opportunities. So that's any further cuts we're hoping to keep away from the students. And then the last thing is just to remind everybody, you're going to be receiving in the mail some absentee ballots. And this is in recognition of the fact that the governor has mandated every school district to conduct this year's budget and board election by absentee ballot. So They have to be returned to the school district by 5 o'clock on June 9th. And we'll count them, but there is no in-person voting this year. It's all done by absentee ballot as required by the state. So that's a summary of the budget. Any questions from the board?
I just wanted to say, Karen, great job with all the work that you got to do with those absentee ballots. So thank you for all that time and energy you're going to be putting into that.
Thank you very much. I'm trying.
And so far, I did not have any pre-submitted questions, and there's nobody who has requested to speak online so far.
Brad, have you received any questions online?
I have not.
Okay. All right, so no further questions, then we can proceed on with this evening's agenda. Thank you very much. And again, the card will be mailed out this week, the absentee ballot forms. So they should be expecting it in the mail, correct, Karen?
That is correct. They were mailed.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Sorry, they were put in the mail today, so within a couple days I should have them. If there's anyone who wants additional ones, they can contact me.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jennifer, would you please call for a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Diane, seconded by James. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public is closed. All right. So now we're going to move into tonight's agenda. First up is item 7, the consent agenda. These are items of a routine matter. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items numbers 7 K, A through K? A motion to accept them, moved by James, seconded by Nikki. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is the personnel actions. This is motions pertaining to the approval of personnel actions. Number A, item A. Okay, a motion to approve that, moved by Diane, seconded by Nikki. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up, drum roll please. This is for the collective bargaining agreement for the teachers. Even self drum roll. Okay, can I have a motion to obtain the approval of the 2019 to 2021 proposed collective bargaining agreement with the RHEA Teachers Chapter? Moved by Nikki, seconded by Doug. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That is approved. Next, we have our internal audit workshop. Andy?
All right, thank you. Each year, the state mandates that every school district go through an internal audit risk assessment, and this is in addition to the annual external financial audit that is conducted by CPAs. So our risk assessment is conducted by EFPR Group, CPA firm. Overall, they reported into the audit committee at the beginning of the month. We received a very good report. They had a few minor recommendations, but said that overall, the district continues to maintain strong internal controls. If you look at their risk assessment, you'll see some risk levels are rated higher than low, but the auditor assured us that isn't because we're doing something wrong. It's really just by its nature, there's higher risk in some areas, such as in accounts payable, where there's cash flowing through the system. They did have 2 recommendations. One was that on a monthly basis, our transportation department reviews our fuel usage. They recommended that the report also be shared with our facilities department, so the director of facilities can make sure that the refueling of the facilities department vehicles is consistent with when people were working. So we've already implemented that recommendation. And then in the technology department, they had a couple of recommendations. The first was to grant a second user account to each of the technicians there. And the idea was the second one is to be only used for internal systems work, no email, and that would protect against any phishing attempts. And then the second recommendation was for the district to explore having a second internet provider. Currently receive our internet connection through BOCES, and BOCES does have a backup provider, but the auditor suggested we look into that. Because of the remote learning, the activities that's going on, our tech department has been very busy. They will explore these options once we're done with that, but they'll most likely implement this dual account recommendation. They had actually been looking at that prior to the audit anyways. But the second internet provider could be very expensive, so we'll get a second opinion from a technical perspective to see if the cost would be worth the benefit. But both of those items will be addressed over the summer into the fall. And other than that, the risk assessment was clean with no other comments. So any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question, Andrew. This backup, do we currently have backups for our network in place?
Internally, we do have 2 server farms, one at the high school, one at the transportation center. So physically, we do have a backup. And this was more a recommendation for the internet provider, who we do get through BOCES.
Thank you.
So would a secondary ISP be a commercial entity of some sort? I mean, is that how that would go in a scenario like that?
Yeah. BOCES right now contracts with 2 different providers, and so the idea is for us to look into it and see whether we should look into our own commercial provider as a backup.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion pertaining to the acceptance of the internal audit report and corrective action plan? Moved by Diane, seconded by Anne Marie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up is our workshop for the new course offering. Dina?
My mute's not coming off. Hold on. I'm trying to get my mute off. Why isn't this? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wasn't sure if that mute button was on or off. We have one new course proposal that was shared with you this evening that is being brought forth by a director of math, Lisa Claire. She's been working with their math department as well as the high school student council that we work with every year doing surveys to our students. And even though we've had to put a few other courses on hold due to the budget situation, we do want to still move forward with the proposal regarding the new course for the math. I'm trying to pull up the AP. Hold on a second here. As you can see, the AP computer science course will be aligned like all our other AP courses to what advanced placement courses require us to do. We've already had some teachers participate in some of the beginning training. And right now, we believe that it would not be an additional FTE expense to us like some of the other courses that we are proposing. This would just be one of the electives the kids would choose from. So the FTE would be coming from other electives because kids would be choosing this math course opposed to another math course. As you know, we do require our students to take math until the time they graduate. And with this expectation, we want to make sure that we're offering a broad range of electives and our math offerings for our juniors and seniors, because after Algebra 2, many of our students still need to take math their junior and senior year. And even though we do have, a nice repertoire of math electives, we feel as though offering some more advanced courses would be beneficial for our students. And computer science is an area that over the last few years, Student Council has indicated students would be interested in taking. So therefore, I'm recommending the AP Computer Science course be approved next week for next board meeting for consent item. And we'd be adding that then to our 2021, 2022 course selections for students to take. Any questions regarding this new elective? All right, so I ask you to consider that, and then we can make that an action item at a future board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, next is our Monroe County School Board Association vote. And a motion pertaining to the election of Thomas as president of the Monroe County School Board Association for the 2020-2021 school year. Moved by Diane, seconded by Nikki. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion is carried. Next, can I have a motion pertaining to the approval of the election of Gary Branken to the office of Vice President for the Monroe County School Board Association? Moved by Doug, seconded by Nikki. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that is carried. Our final action is the motion pertaining to the approval of the election of John Abbott, excuse me, as the office of treasurer for the Monroe County School Board Association. Can I have a motion? Moved by Diane, seconded by James. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Next is our superintendent's report. Due to Mr. Wright's absence, we will hear about the urban suburban at our next meeting, along with any oral information. And that brings us to looking at our school board goals for the following year. Did everyone have a chance to look at our board goals? Anyone have any questions on our goals? No? Okay. And next we have the New York School Board Convention 2020 in New York City. Did everyone take a look at that? Don't know how feasible that's going to be or if we'll have that. I don't think I want to go to New York City right now, so. Okay. Next is-
Jennifer,
Yeah.
can I ask that people at least give, I mean, you guys maybe think about it, and then maybe at the next meeting, just give me an idea of what your game plan is? So that, because I think July is when we have to register if anybody is interested in going.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know what NISBA's game plan is? I mean, is that conference still officially on?
The New York State one?
Yes.
Yes, because the information in the board packet came from them. It's posted on their website.
Yeah, I'm looking, yeah.
Unless they change their mind, but currently that's the game plan.
Okay.
Okay. Next up is board member reports, and due to COVID, we did not have any meetings. I did have a Monroe County Board President's meeting, and at that meeting, we were discussing what graduation is looking like at certain districts. We also were talking about the elections and use of the absentee ballots. That's what we discussed at the meeting, and we're hoping at the next president's meeting to get Dr. Mendoza to answer some questions. That was it.
And Jennifer,
Yes.
the DPAC group will be meeting this Thursday because they do need to, they're going to be doing a Zoom meeting to do their election of board officers for next year, but they'll be doing that Thursday night. And that's pretty much the meeting.
Okay, for DPAC?
For DPAC, yes.
Okay, I didn't think they met. Okay, thank you.
No, they'll be doing it this coming Thursday.
Oh, okay, this coming Thursday.
Just want to let you know, that's all they'll be doing is voting, pretty much voting on their candidate, their president, et cetera, for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Diane, is that gonna be done via, a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting?
No, it's a Zoom meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I think that brings us to the close of this evening's meeting.
All right, should be short and sweet. 2 absentee ballots should be coming to all of our homes this week, and if anyone needs an extra ballot, they can contact Karen Flanagan. The new computer science program will come up for consideration at one of the next couple of board meetings. The superintendent will give his report when he's back at our next meeting. And I'm trying to, sorry, read my writing. And then if we can let Karen know by the next meeting whether or not we'll be interested in going to the NISPA conference in October, that would be good. And lastly, Andy, thank you so much for all your hard work on this budget this year. I cannot imagine all the work you've been doing, and you did a great job. Thank you. And that's it.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Anne Marie. And that concludes this evening's meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting? Moved by Diane, seconded by Anne Marie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Our meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And Dina, I hope you had a wonderful birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right.
All right.
Be safe, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.